Welcome, friends! It is I, your LostScarf, and it's time for the Overwatch Hero Guide to Soldier 76. He is the most beginner-friendly hero in the entire game. He is the one to play. Like, if you're familiar with Battlefield or Call of Duty and stuff like that, he is very much kind of from there so that you're able to just understand how to play him. So he is just a very straightforward hero. We're going to go over who he is, how you play him, his abilities, tips and tricks, how you play him in the different modes. And that's really what we got to talk about there, is just all these different things. He's straightforward, but there are some nuances about him that can be very useful to know, and they can make you a really good player with him. But he is the most beginner-friendly, so he isn't a hard guy to play. So let's get going. Who is Soldier 76? So his name was Jack Morrison. He was the leader of the original Overwatch until his faked death when he had a big fight with Reaper. They both ended up being dead, but not actually dead. After Overwatch went down, he went ahead and stole some really special stuff, and he's been a vigilante since then, so he's still been fighting the good fight while not being who he is, but everyone in Overwatch knows it's him. That's just what's going on with him. As far as gameplay goes, like I said before, he is the most straightforward hero in the game. You point and you click and you're shooting things. That's what you do. Same thing with his right click. You're just straightforward shooting with the guy. He also has a heal for himself. He has a sprint to get the things faster, and he has an aimbot for an ultimate. Soldier 76 is the hero to play first in the game if you're not really good at FPS. You'll learn from him, then you can get good with other heroes from there. The abilities of Soldier 76. First up, you gotta talk about his gun. That is the Heavy Pulse Rifle. That's his left click. It deals 17 damage a shot at close range. Over distance, it loses damage all the way down to 5 damage at the furthest distance. The spread of the shot increases as you fire. It takes about 5 bolts before it happens, and it takes about 1 second of not firing for it to narrow back down. This is really something you gotta keep in mind when you're just shooting at enemies. Now, your right click, which is your ultimate fire, is the Helix Rockets. This is 120 damage. It has a small splash, so it's good to hit walls or the ground at the enemy if you don't think you can get a direct hit. His left shift is Sprint. This is just letting you run fast. You can't fight during run, but allows you to get to things very quickly. Very helpful. His E is Biotic Field. This is a 40 HP per second healing area that heals for 5 seconds. It cannot heal through walls. It heals him and his allies. It's very helpful. And finally, his ultimate, Tactical Visor. This is a 6-second duration ultimate that is an aimbot that does not miss. He also increases reload speed during it. So you just hold that left trigger and just shoot everything you can, kill a bunch of enemies. It's really nice at just wiping the enemy team out. Soldier 76 in combat. There's a lot of nuances to talk about with Soldier 76, and the first one we'll talk about is click fire versus held fire. And to explain that, you gotta talk about bullet spread. As you're shooting his gun, the bullet spread goes out, where the idea is his crosshairs get bigger because the shots are just spreading wider, because the more you fire, just the bullets just start flying around wildly instead of just being on a narrow shot. It's not always straight and forward like a sniper shoots. And that's just a way to balance them out. And also just the thing that's done with a lot of guns and a lot of FPS is that the gun just spreads out. So, click fire versus held fire. Held fire is you're just shooting, you're getting a lot of bullets out, but you're not being very accurate. While click fire is very accurate, but you're not shooting as much by a little bit. But because of your accuracy, you should be doing equal DPS or even better because you're just landing your shots. So I say click fire at long range to mid range, held fire from mid range to close range. And it depends on how close the enemy is. Because the enemy's really far away, you're not going to hit them by just holding the shot. You got to make sure your shots are narrow so you can hit the enemy, maybe kill them. At middle range, I really feel like click fire is better because you're just going to be more accurate. You're going to land those shots, you're going to kill the enemy. But once they're close enough to a certain range, you want to just hold the trigger down so you just shoot them to death. And that's really just what I want you to think about. That's why I'm mentioning it. Just considering, should you be clicking or should you just be holding the trigger? Because sometimes most people just hold the trigger the whole time and they're just not hitting anything. So I just want to keep that in mind for you. Now, the thing is, you can do click fire at close range, but you're going to be relying on just landing every shot and also going for headshots if you can, because headshots will make up for the fact you're not shooting as much. That's just stuff to keep in mind. Now that we've talked about firing, we should talk about his other tools, and that is, of course, his Helix Rockets. They do 120 damage. If you can't get a direct hit on your enemy, if you're not sure about your accuracy, shoot at the enemy's feet. That'll do some really good splash damage. And if there's two enemies next to each other, shoot between them. The little splash is a very small size, but it can hit both enemies, and you can kill enemies that way. It's very nice to do that. Keep in mind also your sprint. Sprint can get you closer to enemies so you can get into a better situation, or help you run away from bad situations. And then there's Biotic Field. If you feel like you're going to get into a long fight, put on that field. You're going to heal yourself while you're fighting enemies. It'll be really helpful. Or with teammates. Heal up your teammates with you, and you're just fighting in a pretty good prolonged fight. And then, of course, there's the Tactical Visor, which you want to use at range. You don't want to use it too close so that you can just have a good vision of your enemies, so you can just kill a bunch of them. It's very important, and also very important to try to get high ground when you do it, just so you have better vision of what you're shooting at. Now that I've talked about all of his weapons at disposal, there's one more subject to talk about, and that is Lone Wolf versus Team Player. A team player 76 is very helpful to his team. He's able to just put down support fire, shoot the enemies in front of him and his teammates, put down the biotic field to heal them. He's just very helpful in that way, just giving the enemy a straightforward threat to be worried about and keeping his teammates alive. He can just help healing just like a support can to an extent. He's just very useful in that way. But the other way to play him is a flanker, and this is the way I like to play him. The lone wolf flanker that is 76. He goes around the enemy on their sides and attacks them from the sides, or gets behind them and attacks them from behind. Hits them with the rockets from behind, hits them with the guns from behind, puts down the biotic field to keep himself alive as he's fighting them, and he's just a big distraction for the enemy, and he might even get a couple kills as well. This is a very annoying 76, because it will force one or two enemies to break off to deal with him, or they can ignore him, but he'll just keep hurting them in the back to the point that they might get killed because of that. So it's a good idea to play a flanking 76, the lone wolf that can do work, but it's always worth just considering what situation is happening. Does your team need you to be a team player, or does it need you to go out there and distract the enemy so they have less to deal with? And that really depends on what situation you're in, and you just got to think about it, but both are worth playing. Team player can just do some good work, especially on the payload or on defending a point, but the lone wolf can just do so much work in keeping the enemy distracted and having them split apart that your team can tear them up since they're split up. Mode duties of Soldier 76. Now, as I said before, he's a team player or a lone wolf depending on what you need him to be. He's very versatile in that way. And it's really just those you got to think about in attack and in defense, and it's just where you are when you're doing them. That's about it. Let's talk about attack and hybrid, capture point, and payload. Now, you're trying to capture point A in capture point and hybrid, so what's happening there is you're either going straight forward with your teammates, being the team player, healing them, doing covering fire, that's one way to do things, or you're flanking the enemy team, attacking them from the sides or the back, healing yourself as you're fighting them, distracting the enemy team or killing them for your teammates, and then you eventually get to the point. When you're on the point, putting down biotic field to heal you and your teammates, hurting the enemies as they're coming over, or you can leave the point if there's enough teammates there to attack the enemy before they get to the point. Now, once it's captured, well, point B is the same idea. Now, for hybrid and for payload, you're either on the point or you're attacking the enemy in front of the point. That's really all you're doing. You can be on the point, putting down more heal with your teammates, relying on the cart to just give you HP as you're attacking the enemy. Not a bad way to do things. Or you can separate yourself from the payload and just attack the enemy before they get to the payload. That's another thing you can do. You want to just flank them from the side, distract the enemy, slow them down before they get to the cart. Not a bad idea to do, but it really depends on your situation. If you've got a Reinhardt on your team, you can just sit on the payload and shoot from there. You don't have to worry so much. But if you feel like there's some good threats to Reinhardt, then you might want to just break off and do some work. That's also an option right there. Now, when it comes to defense, just talking about capture point and hybrid for point A, you're either sitting on the point, healing teammates, shooting the enemy off, or you're just going out there and attacking before they get to the point. That's all you're really doing there. And that's just straightforward. Kill the enemy, don't let them do too much. If they get on the point, use your tactical visor to knock them away. Just kill them, keep them down, or at least distract them so that your teammates can do something about it. That's all you're really doing on defense. Now, when it becomes the payload portion of things, well, running up to the payload to contest it isn't the best real move for you. The best thing you can do is either shoot it from the front, from the side, or from the back. You're just constantly attacking the payload or killing enemies who've broken away from the payload. That's really what you're gonna do. You can't really contest it directly because you'll get killed. You're not a tank. The best thing you can do is, if there's a Reinhardt on the payload, is to find an angle where he's not blocking, shoot him from behind or the side to distract him for your teammates so they can attack him from a different angle. That'd be useful. Or just straight up kill him because his shield will get in your way if you're doing tactical visor. If there's nothing there, just block your tactical visor, just do that, try to do it from high ground, and you can kill the enemy team, wipe them out, and then the payload is your team's to hold down. So that is a very useful thing to do with Soldier 76. Now, when it comes to control, it's very straightforward. You either kill the enemy team before the point's active, or you take the point before it's active, then hold it down, then kill the enemies as they try to come in. Now, if you're on the attacking side of things because you didn't get the point, then of course you're just killing the enemy, taking the point. That's really it, with teammates or from a different angle to distract the enemy. And when you're defending, you're either defending from the point or leaving the point to attack the enemy from a different angle. That's really all you're doing. Angles. Just attacking enemies from different areas. Don't do straightforward unless you have to. Heal up teammates, heal up yourself, and eventually you'll win the game. Now, important thing to think about when you're doing control is which map you're on. In Lijiang, for the most part, tactical visor isn't very good because there's so many walls to hide behind, besides Market where it's kind of open. But the other maps, it's a lot easier. Ilios, there's only one map where there's walls to hide behind. The other ones are wide open, so you can get a lot of tactical visor kills. And same thing goes for Nepal. They're very wide open, so you can get a lot of kills with tactical visor there as well. So keep in mind what map you're on when you're using your ultimate. Tips and tricks of 76. Now, the first one to just hammer it in is got to be click fire for more accurate shots. Just fire for 5 bullets, then let go, because fire spreads at 5 bullets. Just something to keep in mind again. Another has to do with the Helix rockets. Shoot them at the enemy's feet or at the wall behind them. Just hit them with a splash. It's just easier to land that than it is to hit the direct hit, because if you don't land direct hit, then you just lose all that damage. So it's just a safer bet. Now for sprint, there's about 2 tips. The first one is, you can run anywhere. You can just use this thing to get into a situation or get out of a situation. Run to a fight, run out of a fight, go around the corner, flank the enemy, get behind them, do whatever you want. Sprint allows you to do things very quickly because you just run fast with it. The other tip is that when you reload your gun, you can't shoot for a moment after you reload, but you can sprint. The exact moment Soldier 76 puts the gun case into the gun, you can sprint. That way you can just run to a situation as soon as possible. You can't shoot just yet when that happens, but you can sprint so you can just get somewhere really quick and then start doing some work. Now, Bionic Field really only has one tip, and that is just put it down before a fight starts. That way you have a lot of HP for your disposal to fight the enemies. Maybe you'll get some kills, maybe you won't get killed. Just very helpful. And these last tips have to do with Tactical Visor. Watch out for shields and for Defense Matrix when you do your ultimate, because shields can just block your bullets, and Defense Matrix can eat your bullets, so it'll just completely waste your ult if they're on the field. So you want to wait for them to not be on the field, or to be away from their teammates so you can just kill their teammates really quick. Other things to keep in mind, Tactical Visor with Mercy damage boost is amazing, holy crap. And the other one is, Ana's ultimate with Tactical Visor is amazing. Both of those with Tactical Visor do so much damage, do so much work, you can wipe out an enemy team very quickly. It is a useful thing to think about. In conclusion, Soldier 76 is the beginner hero in this game. You have a background in other FPS games. He's probably the most comfortable to play first before you branch out into the other heroes. That's what's so great about him. And he's just a very simple hero to play, and just a great beginner hero for offense as well. There's a lot of other simple heroes in offense, but he's the simplest one to learn, so that's why he's the first one we went over. Next up is going to be Lucio. I feel like he's the simplest out of the heroes for support to go over. He's got that healing aura, very helpful. We'll talk about wall riding as well. Not too advanced talking, because that's something that you can learn on your own pretty well. Mastering wall riding is a fun thing to figure out on your own. It is great. Just figuring out where to wall ride over to things is just awesome. But we will talk about it a bit. And after Lucio, we will go over, we will probably do a tank or a defense hero again, just cycling through over and over until we get all the heroes done. Then we'll talk about other subjects as well. So subscribe for more guides coming out in the future. I feel they're very helpful. Share them if you can. There's a lot of just helpful things here I think worth talking about for people just to learn how to play the game better. And of course, there's gameplays to watch as well. You can see how we succeed and fail, so you can learn how to succeed or fail based on what we've done. So there you go. That right there is the guide. I had fun watching. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.